Tianbao Fu Yao Lu. Chapter 151. Unforeseen complications. Among the ruined cobbles, blood dribbled from Li Jinglong's mouth and nose. His arm had been broken, and the array had been destroyed as the very earth itself collapsed. He crawled along the ground towards the Sword of Wisdom, only for En Lushan to set one foot on top of it. "Capture him," En Lushan's voice said. The Yaoguai went forward, lifting Li Jinglong up, and Li Jinglong hung as limply as a dead dog as they dragged him up the stairs and through the main hall of the Mingtang, leaving a trail of blood behind him. By the Tianjin bridge, the group gathered, all of them injured in some way. Though Atai had the wild winds helping him in that moment, he had still fallen quite harshly. Morajin and Ashinakayan were a little better off, but blood stained their faces and bodies. The Carpiao had been the first to be sent out of the boundary of the array, and it had a wound on its leg, which had bled a little. Hung Jun hurriedly treated everyone's injuries, and Atai asked, "Where's your Seizai? She hasn't come yet. I saw her chasing that black bear a while ago, but I don't know where she ended up chasing it to," Ashinakayan said in response. It was right then that Turandak arrived. She had her leather whip wrapped around a black bear, and she dragged it onto the Tianjin bridge, out of breath. "I'm exhausted, totally exhausted. What did you bring it here for?" Atai threw up his metaphorical hands. "It's dead." Turandak replied, immediately taking offense to his words. "We can sell it for money. You think it doesn't cost any money to eat? Who was the one going around all day muttering about how we didn't have any money?" That made the entire group not know if they should laugh at that or not. Originally, Turandak had chased that black bear all the way to the southeastern part of the Mingtang. The black bear's mind was already muddled at that point, and it was only thinking about how to dodge the whip, so it ended up plummeting headfirst into the pit outside the Mingtang. That pit just so happened to be a fortified defense that Bi Sichin had his soldiers dig beforehand, in preparation for them to defend the Mingtang to their deaths upon the fall of the city. Countless sharp swords had been buried in it, and as soon as the black bear fell in, 1,000 swords pierced its heart. The more it struggled, the more it was unable to climb out. Turandak stood to one side, wrapping her whip around the black bear's throat and pulling tight. Finally, the black bear breathed its last, and Turandak dragged its body out. "Let's do our duty first," Atai said. "Leave it in one of the houses to the side, we'll split it up after we're done." "How is Jinglong?" Hung Jun asked anxiously. "He won't die," Morajin said. "Relax." Before they escaped, Morajin had specially glanced back from afar. Though Li Jinglong's body had been riddled with wounds, and many of his bones were broken, his life was in no danger. However, the words that Morajin had spoken were still a little tinged with guilt, and Hung Jun sensed that and knew that Li Jinglong was having a rough time of it all. He didn't pursue that line of questioning. Instead, he fell silent for a while, before helping everyone finish bandaging their wounds. Morajin said, "Let's set out right away. It should begin very soon." The exorcists, their hearts heavy, nodded, before they dispersed. The place where Hung Jun had been assigned to was the Tongtian Futu across the way from the Luoyang exorcism department. Ashinakayan even escorted him right to the Futu, where the earth vein was, before he turned to leave. Before he left, he paused for a moment, before saying, "Hung Jun, everything will be all right. Zhenqi will come back as well." Hung Jun nodded. He respected every person in the exorcism department, and he knew that no matter which one of them it was, they were all more than willing to take Li Jinglong's place in this dangerous endeavor. But they had no other choice, only Li Jinglong could go, and he also had to respect Li Jinglong's sacrifice. In the main hall of the Mingtang, Li Jinglong's entire body was in excruciating pain, and his head and face were covered in blood. The talisman was still pressed up against his chest. The hall was silent. "Hey," a voice said by Li Jinglong's ear. Li Jinglong opened his eyes, only to see a lean, lithe man, his hair shorn very short, like that of a monk's, his body clad in a set of metal scale armor, kneeling by the metal cage in which he was lying. "You're called Li Jinglong, is that right?" that man asked. Li Jinglong remembered him. This Yao Gui was one of the 3 great Yao commanders by An Lushan's side. His name was Zhao Yun, and according to what the Carpiao had detailed, he was, amongst the multitude of disgusting Yao Gui in An Lushan's camp, one of the most normal ones. Zhao Yun's eyes were bright, and they were big and golden. Though he was a Huashi, he did not have the narrow, grotesque face of normal snake Yao. Perhaps it was because he had cultivated for even longer, but he looked very much like a handsome human youth. "Kong Hung Jun, do you know him?" Zhao Yun asked, squatting there with his hands draped over his knees. "What about him?" Li Jinglong asked tiredly. "Is he the little prince of Yaojin Palace?" Zhao Yun asked. "Was he the one I ran into on the canal that day?" Li Jinglong had breath but no strength. "If you have anything to say, then say it." Zhao Yun said quietly, "You're injured. You should take some medicine." And saying that, Zhao Yun handed him a piece of bark. "I can't eat this," Li Jinglong said. Even if it was medicine, it was impossible for him to eat anything that a Yao Gui under An Lushan's command gave him. If he ended up poisoned, then all their efforts would have been for nothing. "You should take it," Zhao Yun said. "It can help cure your wounds, it's very good." "What exactly do you want?" Li Jinglong asked. "If An Lushan learns that you were talking with me, you will be done for." Zhao Yun looked left and right, before saying quietly, "I want to make a deal with you. I'll rescue you. In exchange, you have to help me out." Li Jinglong frowned, and only with that did he truly look at Zhao Yun appraisingly. "I have a few comrades in arms," Zhao Yun explained to Li Jinglong in a very quiet voice, looking around warily. "We've all followed An Lushan for so long, but we feel like continuing on like this won't do, so we want to seek refuge with the Lords Chongming and Xingxiang. You are familiar with them, so can you help put in a word for my comrades?" Li Jinglong. Zhao Yun continued, "Kong Hung Jun is the little prince of the Sky Clan, isn't that right? I heard Zhao Zilong say that, and he's even the child of Mahamayuri. If Lord Chongming goes through the cycle of rebirth again, aside from the golden-winged great Peng of the Sky Clan, it is Kong Hung Jun's word that counts. If he's willing to take us in, then none of us will have to waste our time with An Lushan." Not in his wildest dreams did Li Jinglong expect things to play out like this, and he asked, "Why are you asking for this?" Zhao Yun scratched his spiky head, thought for a bit, and said, "All of us simply want to cultivate well, so that it'll be easier for us to turn into dragons in the future. We don't want to do so much unnecessary stuff, and the way I see it, if An Lushan continues on like this, it's not worth it if his actions cause us all to have to suffer the wrath of the heavens." But now, Li Jinglong was stuck. Zhao Yun was so willingly coming to help him escape, so if he rejected him, wouldn't he expose himself? But if he let Zhao Yun rescue him, then their previous plan would go down the drain. "I don't know where they've gone," Li Jinglong said powerlessly. "Even if we leave now, I won't be able to find them, and I also won't be able to run far." "It's all right," Zhao Yun replied earnestly. "I'll fly you out of here, they won't be able to catch me. Then I'll have my comrades go search for your friends." Li Jinglong, "No need." Zhao Yun. "I'm afraid I'll be dragging you all into this," Li Jinglong said. Zhao Yun, "Are you dumb? Once I free you, we'll also run. Who wants to stay in this place?" Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong was truly stuck, he could not agree, but he also could not get rid of him by refusing. Zhao Yun added, "I have wings, I can fly. I've liked birds ever since I was small, and you don't need to worry about me not being able to do my part. As long as you put in a good word for me, we'll make sure that His Highness understands how sincere we are in this." Li Jinglong wanted to let out an enraged shout of what exactly is all of this nonsense. But it was right then that Liang Danhuo's voice suddenly said coldly, "Zhao Yun, what are you doing?" Zhao Yun immediately turned his head, and with a hiss, a dangerous expression appeared on his face. Liang Danhuo looked at Zhao Yun suspiciously, and the atmosphere between the two of them suddenly grew tense. Zhao Yun replied, "Nothing much. I was interrogating him on where the rest of them went." Li Jinglong thought to himself, there are such intelligent ones among the Yaoguai, too. Liang Danhuo said, "Zhuang has gone missing. Go look for him." "Aren't I looking for him right now?" Zhao Yun replied coldly. Liang Danhuo grew irritated. "Go outside and search." Zhao Yun had no choice but to rise, and when he passed by Liang Danhuo, she asked, "Did Zhao Zilong say anything to you?" Zhao Yun's face was filled with suspicion, and he frowned at Liang Danhuo. She said, enraged, "It was a traitor. Weren't you the one to bring it into the fold?" Zhao Yun jeered. Rage burst forth from Liang Danhuo's heart, and she glared fiercely at Zhao Yun, before glancing at Li Jinglong. "You won't be alive for much longer," Liang Danhuo chuckled coldly. Li Jinglong smiled back just as coldly, and he leaned back against the bars of the cage, studying the dark, gloomy sky outside the hall. That day, a heavy snow began to fall over Luoyang. There were no living people left in the city, the only ones left were the exorcists and the Yao tribes, with An Lushan at their head. Hung Jun sat in front of a window on the first floor of the Tongtian Futu, looking outside. Snowflakes danced through the city, and the heavy snow gently blanketed the ruins, corpses, and bloodstains that had been left after the fires of war burnt themselves out. It turned this 3,000-year-old city into a blanket of silvery white. Countless sins and infinite death were buried under the white snow, making it look as if nothing had ever happened before. Instead, the snow brought with it a faint sense of sacred purity and solemnity. "He will be all right," the Carpiao said comfortingly, from where it was warming itself by the fire. The stove was stuffed with the legs of the destroyed tables and chairs of the Tongtian Futu, and they crackled and popped. Hung Jun and Ed. The Carpiao continued, "There are much fewer Yaoguai at An Lushan's side than before. I heard them say that he is also not as powerful as he used to be." The Carpiao had stayed in the Fanyang Manor for over a year, so naturally, it had heard a lot of rumors about them. Before, when the power of the heart devil was at its peak, the four great Yaoguai wine, lust, greed, and pride, along with the painted skin Yao Liang Danhuo, the Huashi Zhao Yun, and even Xiaoyu of Chang'an, the fox Yao Wuqiu, the plague god, and the snow woman of Saibei had sworn their allegiance to him. But with the appearance of the exorcism department, Li Jinglong had started to whittle away at them. Not only had he killed the Yaoguai under An Lushan's command, he had also driven a wedge between An Lushan and Yangquozhong, which made it so that now, almost all of An Lushan's subordinates had deserted him, leaving only Zhao Yun and Liang Danhuo as his two greatest generals. "Zhao Yun was that Huashi that brought me to the shore?" Hung Jun asked, the topic successfully diverting him from his train of thought. "I told him that he could not harm you, no matter what. I was the one who told him that," the Carpiao hurriedly jumped up to inform Hung Jun. "I told him that you are a prince of Yaojin Palace, and the only successor to Lord Chongming. Once Xiaoyu and Mara are dealt with, you will be the Yao King." Hung Jun nodded, and the Carpiao added dejectedly, "I'm sorry, Hung Jun." "I forgave you already," Hung Jun said easily. "In the future, there's no need to say that you're sorry anymore." The Carpiao ed, watching Hung Jun dumbly. A long time later, it said, "Fish don't have tears, which is really unreasonable." Hung Jun, however, began to chuckle, before he suddenly remembered something. He pulled out the dragon scale that Li Jinglong had given him, saying, "This is a gift for you." "What is this?" the Carpiao exclaimed, as if it had been given a great treasure. "Is this a scale from a lord dragon?" "That's right," Hung Jun said, watching the carp Yao. Jinglong gave it to me, so I'm gifting it to you. The carp Yao was astonished. Have you seen a dragon? What did the dragon look like? Was it like how the books describe it? Hung Jun smiled slightly, before telling the carp Yao the general outline of what had happened in the dragon subduing tower. The carp Yao listened, unable to close its mouth. It then looked at the scale in its hand. This won't do, this is too precious. Calling it here will be enough to save lives. You should keep it, and if anything does happen. Jinglong said it's yours, Hung Jun said. Consider this a gift from the two of us. Li Jinglong had in fact said those words, but the original phrasing had been, giving this scale to Zhao Zilong, on the other hand, will be pretty good, so that it can stop following me around like a father-in-law, nagging and doddering on about all the ways that I'm not doing well enough. After all, it's looked after you for this long, so it can consider this a reward for its service, and that had even caused him and Hung Jun to argue a little. Of course, Hung Jun didn't tell the carp Yao that. Instead, he said, it won't. Even if you summon a dragon, it won't be able to be of much help. Of that group of dragon kings, none of them were whole, one was mute, and one was blind, and so on. Hung Jun did not expect them to be able to get rid of Mara at all. With how they had been before, where they had been corrupted by devil chi, it would be a miracle if Mara didn't end up rousing them into joining it instead. At most, when the great army of the Yao tribes appeared, they could summon the dragon lords to toast them a little. Then, can I seek it out for help in becoming a dragon? The carp Yao asked. Hung Jun scratched his head. Perhaps they'll reply. The carp Yao was overcome with a wild joy at that, and it held that dragon scale up, before seeking out its little waist pouch, ceremoniously tucking it away. Hung Jun thought about the dragon kings, but he was suddenly reminded of the fact that Mara did indeed seem to have an ironclad grip on the Yao tribes. As long as they were of the Yao tribes, even if they were dragons, none of them seemed to be able to fend off the devil chi after all. After Yao Guai cultivated to the point where they formed spiritual consciousnesses, most of them were still ruled by their wildness, and they let their natures control them. They were bloodthirsty and eager to kill, so it was even easier for Mara to control the Yao tribes than it was for it to control humans. Humans seemed to possess romantic love, familial love, affection for friends, and so on. There were many sources of strength that gave them hope. This power, when facing down devils, actually gave them the special ability to push back the darkness of the devils. But human bodies were truly too frail, to the point where they almost had no ability to struggle, and it was very easy for Yaos to hunt them down like prey. What am I? Hung Jun couldn't resist asking himself. He had the devil seed in his body, and he had originally been born solely for the sake of becoming a devil. But his flesh was half Yao and half human, so amongst the three great peoples that inhabited the divine land, devils, Yaos, and humans, all three of them were deeply connected with him, as if this had been decreed by fate itself. Hung Jun, the carp Yao said, interrupting Hung Jun's train of thought, don't worry, second eldest will definitely be fine. Hung Jun sighed. For some reason, I keep feeling a little uneasy. The carp Yao did its best to comfort him. It had once looked down on Li Jinglong, but now, it sang praises of Li Jinglong until he sounded more divine than mortal, an existence that was unique in every way in this world. Hung Jun felt a little more relaxed after that, and it was then that Xiang Yu appeared, standing outside the doors to the Tongtian Futu, holding an umbrella. Your Highness! Xiang Yu shouted. Xiang Yu wanted to greet him properly, but Hung Jun hurriedly told her not to stand on ceremony. Usually, with the members of the exorcism department there, Xiang Yu and Wenbin greeted them very rarely. Now that the rest of them were not there, Xiang Yu started to address him as Your Highness, which immediately made Hung Jun feel much more endeared towards her. Look, do you think my outfit looks nice? Xiang Yu asked, smiling. Xiang Yu was wearing a long, crimson dress, with a fur coat wrapped around her. Its collar was flipped out, revealing the snowy white of a fox pelt. She turned in a circle for Hung Jun to see, and Hung Jun smiled in return. "It's pretty, you're very beautiful," Xiang Yu said, "they're all being proper. Let me keep you company." Hung Jun knew that everyone was worried about him, and Xiang Yu began to tell Hung Jun about the small amusements that happened in her daily life with Wen Bin. The general gist was that Wen Bin bumbled around, unable to do anything well, and his book-headedness often came back to smack him in the face. Hung Jun listened, and he chuckled. "Jinglong is much more intelligent than I am, so in my eyes, I always can't do anything right either. Even if I wanted to, I can't do that," Xiang Yu said, a little self-pitying. "But we each have our own lives to lead, and whoever we get together with is just how it is. Who told me that I had to go and fall in love with him?" "That's true," Hung Jun smiled. "Whoever we get together with is just how it is, and all that matters is that you like them." When he heard these words, Hung Jun was suddenly a lot more accepting of his lot. End chapter. Tianbao Fu Yao Lu. Chapter 152. Hanging by a thread. Hung Jun, Xiang Yu, and the Carpiao all watched the snow fall outside. His heart gradually grew calm, waiting for Li Jinglong to bring about that final result for the rest of them. The Carpiao held that dragon scale cherishingly, stroking it, even bringing it up to its mouth and rubbing its mouth against it. It was as if with this scale, its dream of becoming a dragon was not so far away and impossible, and with the little bit of dragon energy that rubbed off on it, as the days went on, it would turn into a dragon. If it hadn't been for the Carpiao's tongue being too short and therefore unable to stick out of its mouth, the Carpiao would have wanted nothing more than to lick the scale. "Xiang Yu. Hung Jun. What is this?" Xiang Yu asked, right at the time that the Carpiao was, with great difficulty, trying to stuff that dragon scale into its mouth. Unfortunately, the size was not right, and no matter what, the scale wouldn't fit. Hung Jun explained the debts and grudges that had happened, and Xiang Yu noted, "I heard an old person say before that turning into a dragon is really hard. Someone needs to name it." Hung Jun echoed her. "Name it?" When Yaogui cultivated to the point where they were on the brink of attaining enlightenment, they required someone to give them a name. Legend had it that humans were the most intelligent of all the living beings in the world, and only by being given a name could Yaogui attain enlightenment, and only then could Jiao turn into dragons. As for the method of being named, it was a very odd process. All the person had to do was to point at that thing and say you have become a human or you have turned into a dragon, and the Yaogui would be able to obtain mysterious powers. "Your Highness's lot lies in part with it," Xiang Yu said. "Perhaps you are the one who will name it. Legend has it that this kind of destiny has long since been fated to be. Just like how it was with Wen Bin." When Hung Jun thought about it, Xiang Yu and Wen Bin seemed to be fated to be as well. It was only after they had met that Xiang Yu had truly gained the 7 emotions and 6 passions of humans, and had tasted happiness and rage, grief and joy. The Carpiao, however, had no attention to spare. Its eyes were engrossed with that dragon scale, and a moment later, it asked, "When is second eldest finally going to make his move?" Hung Jun shook his head. They had agreed beforehand that it could take 1 day, or maybe even multiple, but as long as Li Jinglong activated the power of the earth veins, that would be felt across the 7 heavenly formations. In that period of time in between, they all had to stay inside the buildings temporarily. Xiang Yu sat with Hung Jun for a while, before rising to bring them some food. Hung Jun stayed leaning up against the window frame, and he napped for a while. The snow outside the window rustled as he sank into a long dream. In that dream, there were a multitude of shrill shrieks, pained wails, and incensed roars that ripped themselves forth from throats. It was as if the nightmare that he had had in Dunhuang had returned again. He dreamt of a man using a dagger to cut off the skin and flesh on his body, and he dreamt of an old man lying in a coffin, drawing the lid over himself. A hanged woman's face was a sallow, waxy yellow, as blood dripped down from her body. The tens of thousands of children who had died were all squeezed together through the streets of Luoyang, and a black cloud came seeping in. They opened their mouths at the same time, crying out shrilly at him. Li Jinglong's forehead slammed harshly against a metal bar, and he woke up. He was really too tired, and even if he was to be tortured, he still needed to sleep a while. Otherwise, he was afraid that if he ran into an Lushan, he would be too exhausted to fight. The sky was still as dark and oppressive as it had been, and he couldn't tell what Shishan it was. The thing that he was most afraid of was an Lushan deciding to go so far as skipping interrogating him entirely and escorting him back to Chang'an as a prisoner. But he was guessing that an Lushan would not do this. After all, his exorcism department subordinates had escaped. If he was escorted out of Luoyang, that would slowly introduce more variables. A long night is oft riddled with dreams, and he was betting that an Lushan would deal with him as quickly as he could. Two Yaogwai were currently pushing the cage that held him, dragging him out of the main hall. Li Jinglong immediately sensed that the main boss was about to appear. His eyes cracked open the merest sliver. He was being pushed through the grand hall in the Mingtang, through a corridor filled with ash and smoke. The wind carried gray-black flakes of light snow on it, and it brought with it the coppery tang of blood. It was in that very moment that he suddenly felt an incomparable yearning for Hung Jun, and he even felt the faintest sliver of regret. How have I ended up in such a spot? Li Jinglong sat in that cage and could not help recalling his entire life. In those years he had lived, from when he was young until now, he had basically never imagined that such a moment would come. Very quickly, they reached the end of the corridor. At the end was a vast, empty patch of elevated ground, that had been the sacrificial platform that Wu Zetian had set up in Luoyang. Before the platform was a mountain of dried corpses that had been piled up, layer upon layer. That was an Lushan's masterpiece. At this moment, he was currently sitting on the sacrificial platform, his body sprawling yet majestic. Black chi billowed forth from him, and he held a corpse in his hand, bringing it to his mouth to suck it dry. The black chi enveloped that corpse, instantly rotting it, before it was sucked back in by him again. By his side was piled a large amount of fresh corpses. Every time he finished consuming one, he tossed it casually down past the sacrificial platform. The Yaogwai pushed the cage with Li Jinglong in it up the slope, and they came to a stop in front of an Lushan. The corruption that spread through him seemed to have taken a turn for the better. Simple stitches ran up his exposed belly, and his body did not fester like it had before, as if the spirit and blood that he had consumed was currently helping nourish this rotting body of his. What exactly are you? Li Jinglong murmured before an Lushan had a chance to speak, studying him intensely. A devil. An Lushan's voice had grown deep, dark, and raspy, as if he had a huge bellows in his chest. Seeing as how you are going to die soon, there's no harm in telling you. You, a heart devil, can actually grow into such a form. Li Jinglong seemed to be unable to believe his own eyes. If the Lushan he had previously seen was still somewhat humanoid, the one he was seeing now, at such a close distance, was like a monster that had its head and tail cut off. Devils are devils, and Lushan revealed a mouthful of sharpened teeth, as if he was smiling, and he studied Li Jinglong and the shudders that ran through him at the sight of him. He then waved his hand, and Zhao Yun came forward, opening the cage door. Li Jinglong bent over and scrambled out, lifting his head to appraise this horrific monster that was already beyond his understanding. An Lushan waved a hand again, and Zhao Yun pushed the cage away. In this moment, on the sacrificial platform, there was only an Lushan and Li Jinglong quietly watching each other. An Lushan's body seemed to have countless of the deceased kneaded into it, and when all those resentments mixed together, it was as if all of the sorrow and hurt in the world had been poured into a pool of tar, and this monster had formed out of those thousands of jinn after. His fat, black body constantly emitted devil chi, and there were vengeful, wronged spirits crying out across every part of his body, as if they wanted to flee the confinement that was this physical shell. Heart devil, blood devil, devil of anger, devil of resentment, devil of lust, and Lushan rumbled lowly on the platform. Once I consume enough devil chi, I will become a powerful deity in this world. That dark world seemed to respond in kind, trembling with every one of Lushan's roars. Li Jinglong's hands were tied behind his back by an artifact, and even the slightest bit of struggle made that chain tighten even more. But this was not important. As soon as the power of the earth veins came flooding in, any artifact would go up in smoke. For one of Xia Yu's Hun to cultivate to such a level, Li Jinglong said, his voice trembling, is truly unimaginable. Who are you exactly? You are no longer in Lushan. And Lushan rumbled, I am every person in this world, Li Jinglong. Everyone who lives in this world feels resentment and suffering. Do you truly think you are any more open and above board than them? Li Jinglong actually took a half step back at this, and he replied grimly, everyone who lives in this world feels resentment and suffering, that is true, but the reason that humans are humans is exactly because. Idiot. And Lushan's voice was like a clap of thunder, instantly drowning out the second half of Li Jinglong's sentence. Let yourself be corrupted. He twisted that huge head, his voice reaching a roar. Let yourself be corrupted. Let me see how much darkness you have that you do not dare to declare openly. The human heart, ha! And saying this, and Lushan's huge palm swiftly shot out towards Li Jinglong. There was a huge boom, and the darkness came pouring in like a torrential storm, instantly surrounding Li Jinglong. It is exactly because of that amidst the red dust of this mortal earth, there are things that I am attached to. Li Jinglong, however, struck out with his palm amidst that darkness, and a blazing beam of white light suddenly shot out of it. The vortex of devil chi engulfed Li Jinglong's entire body, and the resentment that Lushan had absorbed instantly dispersed, covering the entirety of the platform. Li Jinglong was like a boat formed from a single leaf, floating adrift in that boundless dark sea, rising tall from amidst those mountainous, crashing waves. I have seen it, and Lushan bellowed, beginning to laugh wildly. Your destruction. Li Jinglong held the talisman in his left hand, and in his right hand, the light of the heart lamp once again grew stronger. He shouted, this ends here. And just as he drew on his power to burn that talisman, a beam of white light flashed, and something in his heart seemed to have been shattered. The living are merely passing travelers, and the dead return to their eternal homes. The heavens and earth are an inn, for all our grief, we inevitably return to dust. Qing Xiang's voice sounded in his ear, and as the world trembled and shook, Li Jinglong found that he had returned to the exorcism department. Countless scenes flashed swiftly past before his eyes. Dad, it hurts so much. Hung Jun. Li Jinglong dumbly watched this play out in front of him, before he roared, Hung Jun. Shuing. Shuing. Jia Yus held a young Hung Jun, wailing with grief. Li Jinglong swiftly turned around, only to find that the war god clad in golden armor had appeared, with the sword of wisdom clasped in his hand. In that instant, golden flames engulfed Hung Jun's entire body, and it began to char and crack, blood seeping out of it as he struggled and rolled in his mother's arms. Kong Xian cast a spell as he gathered himself and charged towards that golden war god, blocking a thundering arrow that gleamed with light. Time flowed backwards once more. Li Jinglong clasped that copy of the Yao vanquishing records tightly to him as he stood in the ruins of the exorcism department. Bring him here. In the wall mural, De Renge's portrait glowed with light. I will get rid of that devil seed in his body. No, no, Li Jinglong said, stepping back. Instantly, countless causes and effects linked together in his mind, forming a single chain. That dark, rainy day in the exorcism department, Hung Jun on the verge of departing from Chang'an, the destruction of Kong Xian's family, as well as Qing Xiang's appearance at the end. Atone for your sin. What sounded in Li Jinglong's ears were Qing Xiang's last words, spoken in a quiet voice. In your life, you are destined to atone for the sin of yours. Li Jinglong held his head in his hands and let out a wild, beast-like bellow. When he lifted his head again, he found that he was already completely surrounded by the vortex of darkness. The black qi in his body was being sucked out, and the black qi roiled as it turned into another him, which stood in front of him. So that was how it was, the dark Li Jinglong said, speaking in an Lushan's deep, ponderous voice. What I have seen, guilt, resentment, and your own selfish desires. Li Jinglong did his best to control himself, but it was already too late. The moment that the talisman was destroyed, a blue light poured out of the ground, suddenly engulfing this vortex. What is this? Never in his wildest dreams had Lushan thought such a thing could happen. Under the darkened sky, beneath the sacrificial platform, the power of the earth veins suddenly collapsed this huge structure that was almost 5 zhang tall and 100 zhang in circumference. The cobblestones instantly crumbled, flying every which way, swirling wildly around Li Jinglong and Lushan. A beam of blue light shot into the sky. He started. Hung Jun immediately turned and dashed towards the center of the Tongtian Futu. He skidded to a stop and knelt in the channeling array, saying quietly, "Whatever gods are out there, please let him return safely." Hung Jun pulled out the talisman and activated it. In the instant that it burned, the power of the earth veins came flooding forth. At the foot of the Longmen Mountains, in the remains of a quarry, the talisman hovered over Morigen's hand as it was burned to ash. Blue light erupted forth from under his feet. In front of the Tianjin Bridge, Tu Rainduk burned the talisman. Beam after beam of the blue light of the earth veins rose into the sky. Throughout the city of Luoyang, in the spots where the 7 stars of the northern dipper were, in the 7 great structures, the power of the earth veins was released in its entirety, and it shot into the sky. Across the vast land, the 7 pillars of light blasted into the sky at the same time. Right after that, they turned into countless points of light that swarmed towards the sacrificial platform in the middle of the Mingtang. It ends here, vile devil, Li Jinglong's voice had instantly grown severe and majestic. Millions of points of light were gathering towards his body, and as his power grew stronger and stronger, the image of a divinity shrouded in white light appeared behind him. And Lushan bellowed, "The same old trick. It won't be that easy." Li Jinglong opened his eyes slightly, just like he had that night in the Daming Palace. The fiery glow engulfed his body, causing him to turn into a bodiless spirit of light. That light shone across the land, and Dipankara descended to this earth. He reached out a hand, and the sword of wisdom came flying to him from far in the distance. It landed in his hand, and he grasped it tightly. Points of light, like thousands of stars lighting up this dark night, rushed as quickly as they could towards Li Jinglong. They turned into countless shooting stars as they did so, before sinking into his body. And Lushan did his best to fight back, but that black qi, under the brilliant light of Dipankara, was like snow before a blazing sun. It incessantly dispersed the darkness, melting it away. "Disperse," Li Jinglong's voice echoed through this world. The meridians throughout his body had burst, and the power of the earth veins filled his body. In this instant, he felt as if his consciousness had become one with the origin of the world itself, and he caught a fleeting glimpse of the intangible, illusory Deo. And Lushan wailed in horror. In this sea of light, he had nowhere he could flee to, and he knelt on the ground, accepting judgment from the divinity in front of him. The devil qi in his body began to be blown away, and the rotten flesh in his chest scattered, revealing his heart, which had been so heavily corrupted by the devil qi that it had turned pitch black. However, that heart was still beating, and it was blazing away in an inky black ball of flames. But in that short moment that Li Jinglong's awareness melded with that of the entire world, a voice pierced through that realm beyond the self where a god would descend. Li Jinglong, the voice of a young Hung Jun, was filled with pain and pleading. "Why do you have to do this?" Li Jinglong's eyes suddenly widened, and in that instant, the power of the heart lamp turned back on him, beginning to burn away his heart. At the same time, in the Tongtian Futu, the entirety of Luoyang had turned into a sea of light, and Hung Jun felt the power of the earth veins coursing through his entire body, before it flowed out towards the Mingtang in the distance. Amidst that powerful surge, he could dimly make out a voice. Devil Seed, that low, sonorous voice promised, you will be destroyed in the end. The Carpiao's voice seemed to sound from behind him, but in that instant, Hung Jun's consciousness blurred. The glow around him turned into the blazing sun shining into the exorcism department during the height of summer, and he had gone back to his childhood. He was kneeling in the main courtyard, and when he lifted his head again, that war god clad in golden armor held the sword of wisdom in hand, pointing it at him. No, no, Hung Jun pleaded, his voice trembling. Don't kill me. The earth vein array instantly quaked, and from outside it, the Carpiao shouted, Hung Jun! Hung Jun! Hung Jun had almost been entirely engulfed by the blue light of the earth vein, and his entire body had turned into a glowing outline. Like silk being reeled from cocoons, his back peeled away in layers, revealing the image of Akalanatha. Is this also a spell that you all agreed on? The Carpiao shouted, feeling that something was not right. It dashed towards the outer perimeter of the spell. Hung Jun! What's wrong? A searing pain came from Hung Jun's heart. In his chest, the heart lamp seal which Li Jinglong had set down suddenly shattered, and devilish black flames began to burn around him. Hung Jun was in so much pain that he began to shout. He felt as if he had once again returned to that day when he was very young, and his father's, mother's, and Li Jinglong's faces all flashed in front of him. But what came right after was the shout from that golden war god behind him. Foul devil! Still not surrendering to your fate. The Yao binding rope exploded with a golden light, and it was instantly wrenched out from within Hung Jun's body. Outside, the Carpiao was incomparably anxious, yet it could not help at all. All it could do was shout, Hung Jun! At that moment, Akalanatha lifted a hand, with the Yao binding rope within his grasp. In that instant, the rope tightened, wrapping firmly around Hung Jun's heart. That devil chi that had explosively diffused through their surroundings was also called back in, and it went back into Hung Jun's body. Hung Jun's eyes lost focus, and he fell unconscious to the ground. Right after that, the array went out of control, and the Tongtian Futu collapsed. End chapter.